good morning, everyone, once again, and you are all welcome to today's Ghana Meteorological Agency 2022 seasonal forecast launch. And we have two sessions, two people on board here. We have some in-house, and then we have others also join virtually. So we are going to all coordinate together. So on this note, I'm just going to call on Mr. Samuel Owusu-Ansah to give us a short prayer, and then we will begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we pray? Our most gracious Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful morning. We thank you for our lives, and we are praying that even as we are about to present this year's seasonal forecast, let it sink well to everyone, that at the end we give thanks and glory to your holy name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel Owusu-Ansah. And for our online community, please, you can enter your name into the chats and then your institution for us to identify you. So for today's session, we have in session attendance the media houses. Then we also have the Director General of Ghana Meteorological Agency also present, and our main lead for the presentation, who is in person of Mrs. Francisca Martey, the Deputy Director for Research and Applied Meteorology. She'll be the one leading us. So before we begin with the session, I'll call on our Director General to give us an opening remarks to this session. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Maureen, and good morning to everyone. And welcome you all to today's 2022 seasonal forecast presentation. This year, it was decided to extend the coverage of the presentation. So this presentation is live on Zoom, and we have our major stakeholders and our Ministry of Communication and Digitalization keenly following it. The relevance of the seasonal forecast is enormous, and its importance cannot be overemphasized. It actually helps our farmers to know the onset of the rains, that's when the rain is going to start, and the cessation of the rainy season. It helps the construction sector for planning their activities, the energy sector for the expected rainfall into our dams, especially for our hydropower generation. National Disaster Organization, NADMO, for disaster risk preparedness. And everyone, the seasonal forecast gives us the outlook of how the season rainfall pattern is going to be. The agency has two main types of forecasts. That is the long-range forecast and the short-range forecast. The long-range forecast, which is the seasonal forecast and sub-seasonal forecast, is organized by our Research and Applied Meteorology, which is led by a Deputy Director and the head of that directorate, Mrs. Francisca Martey. And then the short-range forecast has to do with our weekly and daily forecast, which is organized or headed by our Deputy Director, who is in charge of our synoptic meteorology and forecasting directorates, in the person of Mr. Joseph Potofe. Normally, when issues happen in the course of the year, our media house will reach out to our forecast office or Mr. Potofe for some information and interviews. When the issue is borders on our warnings and our daily forecasts, that's fine. But if it's about the seasonal forecast, how the seasonal is going to be, the person to contact is Mrs. Martey and her team. They are in charge of the long-range forecasts, and then the short-range forecast is handled by our Central Analysis Forecast Office, headed by Mr. Potofi. Effort will be made in next year to change the outlook and presentation style of our seasonal forecast in line with the best practices. This is one of our flagship activity or products or program for the year. And we believe going forward, as this time we've expanded it to cover our audience on Zoom, we hope to probably not meet in this conference room, but have a very big center, invite all our stakeholders present, and then do our presentation of our seasonal forecast. On a lighter note, recent comment by the public clearly show that some of them don't really understand GMet operations, and I'll consider it as an opportunity for us to be able to engage the public, the media going forward, so that we will understand ourselves and understand the mandate and operations of the agency. The agency will continue to provide the country with effective and efficient weather and climate services, as we are going to do today. On that note, I welcome everyone here present and those of us on Zoom, and then hand over the detailed presentation of our seasonal forecast for 2022 to Madam Francisca Martey, Deputy Director and Head of Research and Applied Meteorology. Madam Martey.
Okay. Thank you, Maureen, and then Mr. Kisuma. Sorry, our listeners, for the hitch. So good morning, everyone, and again. So we are coming out of the presentation of 2022 rainfall. We'll start with the overview for 2021, March, April, May, and April, May, June rainfall seasons. I think we all agree that last year, March, April, May, and April, May, June, we had a reduced rainfall amount, which affected all shares of our economy, especially our farmers had issues with their farming activities. Our water bodies had issues, and we had issues with that. One, with our sea surface temperatures that we normally use to forecast. We observed a cold tank, that is a cold section of the temperature over our Gulf of Guinea coast on the Atlantic. And it was either a cold tank or a neutral phase. And that suppressed rainfall over our country. And then normally, we work with the Atlantic around our coast, and then the Pacific oceans. And we realized that the Pacific Ocean also had mostly cold to neutral phases, suppressing the inflow of moisture into our region, a situation that affected both our onset and the amount of rainfall that we're expecting. Again, with our atmospheric circulations, we use the sea surface temperatures, and then we use mostly winds, because the winds are the ones that propagate this moisture, drive it into the country. And then we realized that we had very weak African easterly jets, which we observed over the region, which reduced deep flow of moisture from the ocean into our country, and it had a very huge impact on our season. Lower level divergence and upper level convergence were also seen around February and March 2021 season, a reason that caused the suppressed rainfall. So these were what we realized caused our suppression in rainfall. And when we look at our 2021 map, we can see deficits around the coast and over most parts of the country. The March, April, May month, we had a lot of deficits, a huge amount of deficit in our rainfall values that caused us, especially our farmers. We had normal rainfall, but the normal rainfall were also late, so that our farmers could not use it to plant as we expected. The March, April, May, June 2021 too, from the map, we can also see that we had deficits in our rainfall amounts. So we had normal to below normal rainfall amounts. And if we have below normal or normal rainfall, especially if we have normal rainfall, we can see that it is a normal rainfall, but what will make it very beneficial will be if we have low or our dry spell within the season is short. But the moment we have longer dry spell within the season, then that rainfall amount will not be beneficial to us. And that is what we we realized in April, May, June last year. We come to 2022 seasonal forecast. And with the seasonal forecast, if we look at these maps that we have shown, from we look at a lot of things, we do a lot of investigations before we can come out with a seasonal forecast. And one of them is to look at years that have some characteristics that from maybe late last year up to January, February, we look at those characteristics and see so many years, which one would we have those seemingly characteristics occurring. And so we realize that these years are what 2022 will mimic. And that will be 2001, 2009, 2012, 2018, and 2021. Those are the years that 2022 will mimic, March, April, May. And then April, May, June, the same period, 2001, 2009, 2012, 2018, and 2021. When we look deeply at these maps, we can see that our deficit patches, normal to deficit patches, are more than our surplus patches. Our surplus patches are where we have green showing. And there could be years that we have all green showing, or most places normal to above normal rainfall. But this place, we can see that we are having normal to below deficits in our rainfall amounts. And then the same is showing for 2018 and 2021. Then with our April, May, June, we realize that we see normal to some patches or above normal, and we can see that we have deficits in most places. And those are the years that 2022 is mimicking. So one of the investigations we do to come out with the forecast is how similar will it go through, because this one will also show us the sea surface temperatures, the ocean conditions at that time. So we have ways of putting in our data to bring out the ocean conditions. So when we put in the forecast data for 2022 and find out we have similar, or we look at international centers and we have similar ocean conditions, then it will be one of the signals that we use to see that, oh yes, it is true, we are expecting this. So we move on to the forecast itself. And these are the stations that we use to do the forecast. We use about 47 stations to do the forecast all over the country. But I must also stress that at this time, the northern region rainfall has not started. So there are places that we would concentrate on from 8 degrees north and below. And there are places that will just extend to the north. But the onset rates from the north has not started yet. So these are some of the investigations we do. I said there are so many things that we look out for. So we look at, we have our own data, historic data, and then we have our forecast models that we take from international centers, and we put them together and run them with either our sea surface temperatures, our temperatures at 2 meter level, our winds. So I explained our wind filters, our SST filters, and that's why we had poor rainfall last year. So these are some of the things. And then when we are doing it, we look out for a correlation, a very good correlation, which we call the scale. So we have Pearson correlation, we have other correlations that we look out for. And where we get very good skills, we use that to do the forecast. We come out with the probabilistic forecast. And so for one of our international centers, we realized that we had very good scale from 8 degrees and below. We have very good skills. Let's look at the yellow. And then we're able to come out with a probabilistic forecast for that place. And we can see a lot of blues. And this is the onset of the season. Frank, you were asking for the onset. Your mother was asking for the onset. So this is the onset. And then this is another center, international center, CFS version 2. We can see the gold ones, although we can see some blue inside. But so our very good scale is around the side. And then we come here, we are seeing a little gold, some green, but we are seeing blue as majority. So this will determine what forecast we come out with. Then again, we brought some data together and merged them. And then we're able to come out with this yellow. We are still looking for how the yellow will come out. And then it gave us some blues and some. So at some places, you can get early onset. So the Kumasi people, you see that we are getting early onset at some places. And then late onset, majority of the places. Okay. Does it explain what you asked, Adum? Yes. So from there, we gave this forecast. So we are saying that we expect these places, we expect the week 2 of March for the rains to start. So you use the legend here to be able to define what is happening. I want you to understand it very well, so I can explain it well. Then here, we are expecting normal rains to late rains. You see that we had very blues around here, and it's showing that our onset will be late. Here, our onset will be late. This is our normal This is our early, the beginning. This is our later, so it will be late. And so we see some, I told you, we're seeing some greens, that is normal, some gold, but when you look at the gold, there's a blue here, so we can't go in for that. There's a blue here, we can't go in for that. But majority of the places were showing us late onset. So we are saying that we are expecting, and that is why we gave normal for 30%. So with the probabilities, there are places that we can experience rainfall, but we explain it into detail here if you can't get the meaning here, okay? So, but the scientific community will be picking this from here, the normal to the late. We are choosing 30% normal to late, okay, for the onset. So we are expecting a normal onset at some places like you are saying Kumasi, and where did you mention? Amase South, the rains have started, those places. So the rains are, so those are normal rains. But the rest, like the South, where is the one who was being scared with our storms? Yes, so this place is late, and it's normally late. So that is it. Then when we say the dry spell, I think Frank is now understanding. Josh, I don't know whether you are getting our terms, but when we say the dry spell, it's rain today. You were saying at least 2 days. So 2 days, 3 days, the dry spell is short. But once it rains today, 9, 10 days, we have longer dry spell. Or 11, 12 days. So the break in the rainfall. So now we are saying that, and this would be, as I said, this is what would help us, our seedlings that we have planted to germinate and then to be able to flower the first 50 days. This is it. So we need, the word is consistent and persistent, not too much. If I have 5 millimeters of rain every day or every 2 days, and I have moisture in the environment, I have moisture in the soil, then my fruits, my seedlings will be able to germinate and then flower for me. So this is what, and then we use that one. So we are saying that we have good skill here, but our probabilistic is giving us longer dry spell. We are finding good skill here. It's still giving us longer dry spell. Okay, this is shorter. This is normal. This is longer. This is early. This is normal. This is late. Are you getting a picture? So we come here again. This is also another international body that we work with. And we are getting good skill here. And then we are still getting longer dry spell. Yes. Yes. So I should. So this one too, we are getting good skill here and then longer dry spell. Okay. So that's one. We come to the conclusion. Please let's focus on 8 degrees and below. You can see that one. But so here, we see this one is not too green for us because we are getting longer dry spells. And when you look here, it's, I think, very long. But here, you can see that we chose normal. There are some places that will get normal spell for the first, but we are expecting longer dry spell for most places. Longer dry spell for most places. So we choose normal to longer. Look at the figures too. And then you come and pay attention to what we have here. Then we were able, we did some graphics so that we said that this one is what we have put together for the past 30 years. So this is our normal dry spell for the first season. The black one, the black one. The blue one is the forecast. And you can see that it's showing us longer all over the place. So let's look at the transition zone, the forest zone, the purple one is showing us. And then it's showing us according to the figures so that will make it easier for us. So the long-term mean is the 30-year average condition of the given zone from 1991 to 2020. Okay. Then we come to the second dry spell or the late dry spell. Our flowers, our plants are flowered. The rains that can hold them, so we get fruits or we get whatever we want. If we don't get rains or we get too much spaced rains, then the flowers will fall down and then we get fruit. So let's go together. We are seeing that with the gold place, we have very good correlation, but we still have blues around the probabilistic forecast, which is showing us longer late dry spell. Then here too, with the CMC version 2, we have so good scale from the 8 degrees up to 6 degrees north, and then we are still getting late dry spell. Then we have for the NMME, also we have very good scale. We are still getting normal to late dry spell. So that's why we went for normal to late dry spell. We call it climatology is a normal, okay? So, but there will be patches within it where we would have longer dry spell. And so we have also spelled it within the normal map for us to understand, okay? So we've also represented it in this form. So the gold is the climatology of the norm. The climatology means the 30 years, what we have. So when we come here, how is the climate here? We say, okay, so every time this is what happens. So that is the goal. Now the forecasted one is the green. And we can see that it is either at par or above or longer than the normal, which is happening. Then the cessation, when we expect the rains to cease, you can see we have very good scale. And then we are saying that you can see normal to late. Very good scale here, you can see normal to late. Here to very good scale, still normal to late at some places. The same applies here. There are some patches which will be early. There are some patches which are early. And so you see what we were trying to explain this morning. Somebody will say, oh, the forecast it came. Somebody said it didn't come. These are it. You see, there are some places that they are near each other, but one is saying to be early and one is saying to be late. So that is what happens. Those are what the models are telling us, the one we run ourselves. So we are saying we gave that place because we're saying we're seeing more of the normal. We are saying we are expecting normal cessation, but there will be patches of late inside. And that is what we are defining here. So when you study the table, you'll be able to come out with what is going on. So I said we work with some global centers, and this is coming because of our amount of rainfall that we're expecting. And normally the amount of rainfall, the Atlantic or the oceans generally plays a lot of role in our rainfall. So this one, you can't imagine that this one can affect our place within our country. I think when I'm focusing on the so these ones, the one in blue, you can't imagine that when we have the blue, the Pacific, it affects what happens onto our country. So we look at what happens in the Pacific and what happens by our ocean. So you see that when we're trying to find out what happened, what affected us last year, we said there was a cold tank in the Atlantic, we meant here. So we can see that here, it's colder here. It's colder in the Pacific. And then from March, April, May 2022, we are seeing a warm tank on our coast, but it's so shifted to the coast of Cote d'Ivoire. It's just a little around our place. And then for ECM, Met Office, ECM, the Meteo France, a combination, they are giving us a neutral phase. The white is a neutral phase. See the white here? There is a cold one, a neutral phase, and a warm one. So that is it. Then this is also March, April, May. When we look at the legend, we are seeing a normal around our coast. And then with the Pacific, although it's warming up. But when we come to the sea surface temperature anomalies, we see we still have a colder one here, and then we have a neutral phase, a neutral tank around our coast. When we look at the probabilistic, most likely category of rainfall from the Canadian model, Copernicus Canadian model, we find out that we still have a neutral phase around our coast. A neutral phase around our coast when they all combine. And then the total rainfall is a normal rainfall over our country. A normal rainfall over our country. And then it goes on and on. So we come to our forecast for our cumulative rainfall for March, April, May. And then we still have a good legend, a good scale around the coast. A good scale around the coast for Canadian model, a good scale around the coast, and then the probabilities are normal to below normal. Normal to below normal, normal to below normal, normal to below normal rainfall. So where would it be okay to get then into the normal rainfall? And that is what we have plotted with the normal software so that we can get the understanding. We have the values with the legend. And then when we come to our probabilistic or terciles, we are giving a normal category for most places down south. But for the eastern coast, we are giving below normal rainfall. April, May, June. That one was March, April, May. April, May, June. So April, May, June, as we said, is so cooling, but we can see that this the size of the cooling is decreasing. And then on our coast, we can see that the warmth is also decreasing. It's becoming normal. And here, with all of them coming together, it is warming a little. And when it is warming, it is giving us some hope. But here, it is still cooling. This is 2nd April. And then we can see that the Pacific is a bit warm. No, the scale is good here. And then we can see its effect here. We are seeing it's colder, and then it is neutral with our coast. Then the categories, we can see that it's giving us neutral phase, normal category over our country. The normal category, except for the northwestern or middle belt side, the western side of the middle belt, which is giving us some above average rainfall. Then we are seeing the April, May, June precipitation is giving us normal category, and here too is giving us normal category. So then we go to our forecast. The April, May, June forecast, we are giving a normal category for the south, and then below normal category for the southeast. And then when we come to the global map, we'll find our values, the expected forecast values with the legend. So our summary. For the cumulative rainfall distribution, March, April, May. And if something will help us, it will be the cumulative. So we are saying that the total cumulative rainfall amount for March, April, May, both in time and space, will be near normal for most places in Ghana. However, most places in the southeastern part will experience near normal to below normal rainfall for MAM season. And then with our series, the MAM, I hope now when I say MAM and AMJ, the MAM and AMJ is not the peak of the season for the northern part of Ghana. Their season is yet to start, as I explained before we started. And then we come to April, May, June. April, May, June is expected to have near normal for most places in the country. However, the East Coast will experience below normal to near normal rainfall. And then the onsets. Late onset dates are expected over most places in the country. The rest of the country experience normal onset. As we said, some places have already started and they are getting on normal onsets. But again, it will depend on the dry spells. It will depend on the dry spells, how it's going to go. The cessation, we are talking about normal cessation dates, which are forecasted for all the various zones of the country, is in the tables. We will provide the tables. And the first dry spell, at the beginning of the season, an early dry spell is expected to be between 8 to 10, 8 to 12, that's a long dry spell. The beginning, we don't expect this one. Then days for most places in the south part of the country. The East Coast and most parts of the north will have experience between 12 and 15 days of the dry spell. But let's just take out the north, the East Coast. Then the second dry spell, as I said, that will be the one from 51st day to the end of the season. And that one is at the later stages of the season, 11 to 14 days, and that's very long. Mostly normal dry days of dry spell expecting over most parts of the areas. About 16 to 18 long dry spell days or dry spell expected to occur around the coast and most places in the north part of the country. So as I said, these are the tables. So when you put the tables by the maps that we are giving, you find the understanding. And what we did is like how we brought the graphical representations. When we take, for instance, the East Coast, and we are saying that the East Coast from maybe Aflao to Cape Coast, this is what normally happens. And this is what has happened over the 30 years. So we are saying if we are expecting late onset, then you see that first week of March, this is third week of March, so it's already late. And then this is fourth week of April, but this is third week of April. So we are expecting late. Is the explanation coming? Okay. And so that is how we are going to look at it. Where we are talking about normal, it will also be in the table. So we have to study the table very well and then understand what we mean when we say we are expecting some patches of normal and some patches of late. And then the cessation dates, we have to separate because we have not started for them. But the cessation dates, the East Coast, the West Coast, the forest growth, and the transition. We're saying that we're expecting a normal to late cessation. And so second week of July to third week of July, and we're expecting second week of July to fourth week of July for the East Coast. The West Coast, third week of July to first week of August. And that is what the normal 30 years data that we have put together to get this average cessation dates. And this one is the forecasted one. So we are saying third week of July, which falls within this, and first week of July of August. So that means for the West Coast, we are expecting a normal cessation. And it goes on like that. And then the values of rainfall that we expect, the values or the amount of rainfall that we expect. This is what normally happens. So the West Coast gives us more rainfall, followed by the forest and the transition. And then this is the forecasted one that we give. So that one, you pay attention to see if we say below, because like the East Coast, we have 260 to 400, but we are forecasting 250 to 380. And I'm telling you, 20 millimeters of rain is a lot to do something. And so the April, May, June forecast too is there in the table. Then our dry spells. So we are saying this is what normally happens for the past 30 years. And this is the forecasted one that we have given. Oh, this is the forecasted one, this is the normal one. So we also put one, but so we said a longer dry spell, normal dry spell here, longer dry spell here, longer in the transition zone. Okay. So forecast of the second dry spell, and as I said, we call it also the late dry spell. So we also said we are forecasting normal for some places and longer. So we are saying that this one, if you look at the East Coast, we are expecting longer dry spell, then normal dry spell, West Coast, normal forest zone, and a bit longer for the transition zone. So now we come to the advisories. And as we said, we are expecting normal to late onset. We are expecting some places normal to below normal rainfall, longer dry spell. It does not mean that there are places which will not have flash flooding. You know, sometimes with the climate change issue, you can see that it rains and then heavy at once and then it stops. And if measures are not put in place, there'll be flash flooding. So in our advice, we are saying that in the face of flood risk, we cannot take that one out. In the face of flood risk, especially at the peak of the season, the May, June, the flood-prone areas, we want to establish and operationalize integrated monitoring and early warning systems. And then let's be vigilant, exchange, call and find out what is happening, exchange between agencies in charge of flood monitoring, disaster risk reduction, and humanitarian aid should be escalated. And then we sensitize the populace on the exposed areas about the impending danger. Then in the face of long dry spell, which looks likely for 2022, we are saying that we step up education and sensitization of the people to respect the buffer zone rule in order to prevent streams from drying up. And then liaise with national meteorological, agricultural, and hydrological experts for information and advice to provide relief to affected areas. Number C, we support the most vulnerable in the affected areas to pursue alternative livelihoods. Examples include markets, facilitation, small-scale cottage industries, and all those things that we've left. We can pick it up so that we can also have food on our table. Then prudent use of available water and storage of water whenever it rains. So the least water that comes, you should be able to make very good use of it. And then the transportation and public safety. Flash fires may occur during the peak of the season and may lead to flooding, and especially low-lying areas and inbuilt places along waterways. This may lead to some roads becoming impassable when it rains. Road users should be mindful when plying on those roads. Drivers should desist and resist from driving through flood waters. Light aircrafts are advised to take utmost care and avoid flying through deep convective clouds that are associated with severe turbulence and lightning, especially in the afternoon hours. Motorists should be mindful of falling trees and objects on roads during or after a storm. For the national and local authorities, the season is likely to be characterized by near normal to below normal rainfall. However, municipal and local authorities in areas likely to experience local flooding, flash flooding, are advised to provide emergency temporary sites for the victims, desil the drains before the rain sets in to avoid water due to surface runoff that leads to flash flooding. Collaborate with National Meteorological Agency, National Disaster Management Organization, and health services to disseminate early warnings and create awareness of climate-related diseases. Monitor the quality of water and sanitation in towns and villages, and promote irrigation and ensure rational management of water resources for crops and other uses. Then the general public. We harvest runoff water, we sow the drains before the rain sets in, so we have our own portion to play. The municipal authorities also have theirs. So we are saying we desoil the drains in front of our houses before the rain sets in. We monitor the quality of water. We clean up communities through water drainage and gutter cleaning operations. We make it a point to listen to the daily forecasts and move to higher grounds in case the weather warning suggests so. Then for the health sector, the 2022 rainfall season will be largely normal to below normal. Policy and health management personnel are to take notice and deal with climate-related health issues that may arise from the season or forecast. So agriculture, food security, and life sectors. For areas likely to experience water deficits, which arise as a result of normal to below normal rainfall, longer dry spells at the beginning and towards the end of the season, which could affect the planting and growth of crops and promote the development of crop pests. We focus on drought-tolerant species. We implement early warning systems to mitigate the impact of long dry spells anticipated. And then we diversify income generating activities and promote agricultural practices such as tillage, mulching, market garden, agroforestry to offset the production deficits that could affect areas exposed to dry spells. Adapt farming techniques, practices for the conservation of soil water, liaise with national meteorological, agricultural, hydrological authorities for information and expert advice. Then for water management sectors, due to the anticipated season, normal to below normal, water resources are expected to be impacted negatively over most places in the country. Efficient water management should be carried out to ensure enough water resources for the human and animal population. Power, where necessary and would cause danger in the event of heavy rains accompanied by strong winds and lightning, which could lead to localized floods, the power companies are advised to switch off power to avoid electrocutions. That is our end of the forecast. This outlook should be used with the 24-hour and regular updates issued by the agency. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Francisca, for the presentation. So with this time, I think I'll allow for questions. Please, if you have any question, I think those in the room, if you have any questions, I think you are directly with her, so you will raise your hand there and then you'll be called to speak. Okay, Mr. Ayi has raised his hand. Mr. Ayi, please go ahead.
Good morning once again, Madam. Thank you for your presentation. Just I want to find out from the Madam or the agency that what is the normal month that we need to come out with the seasonal forecast. That is my first question. Maybe later I'll ask for the next question, please. Thank you.
Can you go ahead with the other question so that because of time?
Okay, the other question is talking about the normal and just I want to find out from if maybe a farmer just asks me from maybe in cocoa, what time can he put corn or what time can he sow a corn or yes, what time can he plant? What is the actual day can I give it to such a person? Just want to know.
So the normal month for the forecast to come is the final week of February to first week of March. Is that okay? Yes, the second question, we have various times of the planting window, and we are taking the farmers through our historic data. We have the early planting, we have the normal planting, and we have the late planting. So when you take our data, our 30 years histogram, historic data, we have one that we are now taking, we call them participatory agricultural activity that we take the farmers through. When we plot for the onsets, the cessation, the dry spell, then it depends on the farmer, the risk he wants to take, whether he wants to plant within the normal window. And we have provided the table for all the activities. So they know the normal window, and as for us as meteorologists, we give him our advice. He is supposed to take it. Okay, I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Please, do we have any other questions in the next? Okay. There's a question in the chat from Mr. Adam Dechi. If you are expecting normal or below normal, why then are you anticipating flash flood or over many places or areas? Please, isn't it appropriate to use this given seasonal forecast for the northern section at this time for better preparation towards farming?
Are you done?
Yes, please. So those are, so the first one is he's asking if you are, the forecast is predicting normal to below normal in terms of the rain. Why the anticipation for the flash flood? Yeah. Yeah.
You have localized systems that come out. And sometimes you can be then, by the time you realize there's a system and it is raining. So those which come like that, by the time we realize we have some flooding. And sometimes our models or our systems are able to pick it up. And we have to make room for that. So that just in case there's a flash flood or there's a flood somewhere, and the flood is not just for rainfall. Sometimes choke gutters, drains, buildings on waterways, and some other things. So we have to advise according to that. And then this is not the time. You know, we have signals that we look out for. And those are the signals that help us. We don't do the forecast in isolation. We do it with our international centers. So sometimes our international centers are the ones who bring us the models for us to run. If the models are not ready, we can't be running it. Do you understand? That is why we don't run the north at this time. It would have been very good if we could. But by April, the signals are right and we start running. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next question.
So hold on, there's an addition.
Maureen, just
Yes.
to add to the explanation Madam Francisca gave, the fact that we are saying the rainfall is going to be normal, it doesn't mean that there can be flood. I mean, during the rainfall, even if it's one rain that is expected to fall, it can fall to the level that the volume can cause flooding. And so if the rain season is going to be normal and below normal, within the rainy season, amount of rain that will fall a raining period can be flooding. And therefore, we'll have to be, be advised to take precautions during those periods. Thank you.
Thank you very much all for your inputs. Please, the next question is, please, can they use the forecast to prepare for the North farming season, as well as Mr. Anya Dominic wants to know which month should we expect the dry spell in the Upper East region?
The Upper East, normally the dry spell is in July. The first one is in July. It's in July, August. I know he can testify to that. It's normally in July, August. So, and that is what we are saying, that is the normal, what normally happens. And so that is why normally we give that table and we give the forecasted one.
All right. Thank you very much. Please, do we have any other questions? In the room, do we have anyone who would like to ask a question?
Yes, so the question is whether, in our estimation, the country is prepared to absorb the level of rainfall that we are expecting this year, and then our collaboration with stakeholders to be able to address issues that come out during the rain events, if there are some adverse events to happen. So the country's preparedness to absorb the rain. It's good that for this seasonal forecast, we have our stakeholders on board and they are listening to it. The advisory has been given and copies of this forecast will be sent to our stakeholders. That's one. Two, if you listen to our Minister for Greater Accra, who is talking about cleaning our environment and our frontage and the distilting of our gutters. Those are the things that the policies are being implemented to be able to address the issues of this flood So if our gutters are not choked and we are cleaning our gutters, then the gutters will be able to absorb the runoff that will come along with the rainfall that will fall. And so, as he said, we, the citizen, also have a responsibility to play. There's a policy for you to clean your gutters and clean your frontage and distill. If we comply and play our role, the rain will fall and the gutters will be free enough to absorb all the runoff that will come with it. So by so doing, be able to handle any situation that come across. And when was talking, mentioning NADMO and other institutions, all our warnings, all our forecasts, the good collaboration with them, we take our forecasts to prepare for any eventualities. In the agri sector, they are listening. We have copies of our forecasts to also advise the farmers. Our strategy going forward is to do a lot more sensitization to the public and to the farmers. And from here, we plan to meet the farmers in some locations across the country and then break down the forecast to them, then to make it part of their planning in their decision making for their farming activities.
Thank you very much, DG. Mr. Ayi.
Yes, my sister. Yeah, I just want to ask or maybe a suggestion. I'm just pleading with the team. If at the end of the day we can get the copy of the seasonal forecast, very good for some of us, especially those of us at the region, maybe the RMOs, everybody should get a copy to go through so that some of us will go on air to do the morning program. Maybe we can access the question and maybe we can depend on that and answer them. So we'll be very grateful if at the end of the day, by today, we'll get a copy of it. Thank you very much.
So, Messiah, you'll get a forecast, and anyone who is interested, you give the contact at the tail end of the presentation. Contact us if you don't even get. Let me also add that this forecast is updated every quarter, monthly, decadal, every 10 days, and then we have weekly, and then we have a daily forecast, which validate and updates this is now forecast that has been given. So we will encourage the public and our stakeholders to follow it, and then because the forecast, if there's any variation, the update will iron it out.
And then again, to add to that, normally we have Joshua and the team who normally put it on the platforms, the various platforms. And so when you also get it, those, if you're on a platform that needs an agri platform or any water body platform, or just also drop it there. And when there's anything you don't understand, please, we are always on standby. Just let us know and then we explain. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also. I think if there is no other question, we are bringing the session to a close. And on this note, I would like to thank all those in-house, especially the media houses that have come around to support us. We were intrigued. You kindly disseminate this information to especially our local communities into our various local languages for them also to understand. I think the simple takeaway home message is, even though we are expecting our rainfall to be closer to our climatology, as then slightly below it, we should still put in place all the things that we need to do to avoid any flood or flash flood that will occur. Also, in terms of any lightning activities, please, we should be careful also during the season, because last year around the middle sector, Sunyani area, some places have some disasters through lightning. So please, let's take caution. And then so also to our energy sector, especially the VRA, glyco and that VRA, please use this seasonal forecast also to inform you and then kindly get back to the public in terms of any impact this forecast will have, especially in terms of our energy production. So on this note, thank you all for coming. And if you need any questions or clarification, there's a question that is coming. I think the session is closing. But the person wants to know, please, is your forecast made mention of 22 rainfall season in likely expected to be normal? To be normal in the peak.
You said what?
The person wants to know, and that's from Amayao Prince. He said, please, in your forecast, you made mention of the 2022 rainfall season is largely expected to be most normal to below normal at the peak of the season. Among the mentioned months, which of them do you expect the peak to occur?
The peak, I think the peak, we said that the May, June is the peak. You should pay attention to that. That is what we said.
Okay, so I think that is clear for Mr. Amayao. Please, we will have to end the session. If you need any clarification, please contact the office, contact Madam Francisca. She's available. Details are in the forecast for further explanations.
Let me take this opportunity to thank all our participants, those who are here with us and those who are out there on Zoom. As I said from the beginning, going forward, we will organize it in the grand style and then also go down to the ground and disseminate it to our end users so that it forms part of their planning and their decision making, especially for farming purposes and other purposes. You encourage all of you to following our forecasts. As I said, this forecast will be updated through quarterly, monthly, decadals in 10 days, weekly, and then the daily forecast. We thank our journalists who, out of their busy schedule, took time off and joined us, and we believe they will help us to disseminate information to our listeners. On that note, let me thank you, and let's hope for better and wonderful presentation going forward next year. I can promise you that. Thank you very much, and may the good Lord be with us all. Maureen, I'm done.
Thank you very much, DG. I'll call on Mr. Samoluso again to give us the closing prayer.
Let's pray. Everlasting Father, we thank you so much for another wonderful presentation. We are praying that you always be our guide day in, day out, that even as we aspire to even aim to the highest extent, we are praying that you grant us that wisdom, the ability to be able to execute everything that is expected of us. At the end, we thank and glory to your holy name, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. So on this note, do enjoy your day and kindly follow the various updates as listed by the Director General. We have the daily, seasonal, weekly. We have the 10 days also, which support for the agricultural sector. Please follow this forecast for your updates, and let's all stay safe. Bye.